All right, welcome y'all. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Sadea Brownlee, and I'm the manager of community organizing and special initiatives at DreamYard. This is a department that is 3 years old, and we were founded primarily to support older community members, but also our younger community members. Particularly with Bronx Farm to Table series, we're looking at where our food comes from. We're also looking at how we can connect and reconnect to our own foodways, to Black and Brown foodways, the African diaspora in particular, but also the global South in general. Because when we think about the Caribbean, when we think about the continent, we think about North America, Central America, South America, so many of these regions are also impacted by other parts of the world and also have other cultures, other people from all over the world in those areas, right? But in Bronx Farm to Table, we specifically focus on us, so as to uplift and give big ups to where we come from, to the knowledge, the intellect, the science and technology and the beauty that comes from our foodways, right? The recipe that we're gonna make today comes from Chef Regina and my background. We both have family from South Carolina, so this is a Carolina staple in our households, very much something you'll find around the holidays, and it's cornbread dressing. So we are gonna get into our recipes for the night. Most of our things are pretty much prepared. This is an easy recipe. It's really three major steps. We're chopping, well, four major steps. Chopping, sauteing, mixing, and baking. That's it. Altogether, it takes, about an hour, but we've got our cornbread already done, so this is only gonna take us like a half hour. All right? The ingredients that we are going to use for this recipe tonight are, and also want to say, in South Carolina and North Carolina, and also in Gullah Geechee culture, we like to call these aromatics the holy trifecta. Okay, like everything in our food begins with this: celery, green bell pepper, and yellow onion. All right. So we're going to be chopping these things up. We are also going to be using a seasoning called Bell seasoning. It's kind of an old school spice. We are also going to use just a little bit of fresh sage. This is white sage from New Roots Community Farm, which is right here in the Bronx. Shout out to New Roots Community Farm. We'll be using a little salt and black pepper. For our non-vegan dressing, we're going to be using classic chicken bone broth. And for our vegan dressing, we're going to be using a veggie broth that I made. This is a brand called Better Than Bouillon. It comes in a glass jar, all right? It's a little pricey, I'm not going to lie, but it is worth it. It is like condensed flavor. It's incredible. So we're going to be using this veggie broth for the vegan one. And just as a homage to my family, this is not in Chef Regina's recipe, but I did boil some eggs to put in the non-vegan one, and we'll chop those up and put them in there. All right, and then we cut crosswise, right? So crosswise, horizontally against the vegetable, right? Crosswise. Oh, forgot to take out my center. Got a cute little surprise. All right, crosswise. Now if we're doing lengthwise, so think about stem to root, right? Lengthwise is gonna be stem to root. So since I finished cutting up my veggies, I am now cutting up my boiled eggs. And this is a hard boiled egg, so yeah. So we're gonna heat up some olive oil. We're gonna get our celery, onions, and green bell pepper sauteed. And we're gonna saute just until they're soft. These are our raw aromatics. The Holy Trinity: onion, green bell pepper, and celery. So this is our cornbread that is dairy. We put a little vegan butter on top just to give it a little extra flavor. So we're gonna break it up with this spoon, but you can also use your hands. And our vegan cornbread is right here. And so instead of egg, we use an egg substitute. That egg substitute is flaxseed and water. All right, so we wanted to use about 2 eggs in this, so we did 2 tablespoons of flaxseed to 6 tablespoons of water. This is what you want when you are getting your cornbread ready to be dressed up. So the trick with this is you never want the texture of your dressing when you start to pour the broth in there. You don't want it to be soupy. You want it to be moist. It's bread though, so it's going to be soaking it up. So pour slowly and we stir. And I'm going to start pouring the broth on our vegan gravy.
Okay.
Just a little from top to bottom.
Yeah, go ahead.
And this is a lot like soil. You know, the darker it gets, the more wet it is. You may not need all this broth, and that is okay. But typically for a pan about this size, we do use anywhere from 15 to 17 ounces of broth. And we're gonna split our aromatics in half. They are perfectly translucent. We're gonna top it off with some bells. Okay. We're gonna season it with salt and pepper. All right, and this is to taste, right? Everything in here is cooked, so we can taste it before we put it in the oven. Because once we bake it, that's it.
Can't go back.
Can't go back. So we
And
want
what
to.
seasoning you put in now?
So salt,
Black pepper.
black pepper,
Okay, that's black pepper.
and we used our Bell's Classic all natural seasoning, which has got sage and I think marjoram, rosemary, thyme. There might be a little ginger in there. This should bake up pretty quickly. All right. So we set our timer. We are at the end of our time together. I think there should be on the screen links to follow. That's how you can stay in contact with DreamYard and know what's happening, when it's happening, and that's it for us.